Take your CJ7 all the way to 11. Jeepin' with Cool Guy.
On today's episode of Jeepin' with Cool Guy, we're going to start putting back together some things. Today's episode is all focused on the headlight bucket. I know a lot of people are converting over to LEDs. Totally get that. I just like the nostalgic look of the old halogen lamps. So I'm going to reassemble all the pieces that I have, put it back together as this light bucket. I'm going to show you all the little pieces that go with it. So for your light bucket, it's actually fairly simple. I did find a set of rock guards, this kind of stainless steel mesh. It's a little bling, I get it, but it is original dealer type stuff that you can get. Normally what you'll have is just this stainless steel ring that holds the light bulb onto the actual housing. But I like this look. Kind of chintzy, but whatever. We'll do it anyways. I've already gone ahead and I've powder coated the bucket itself that holds the housing, or the housing that holds the bulb. And there's 3 little screws that hold the ring, the retaining ring, to this bucket. These were rusted out and they're Allen wrench heads. And I just really didn't want to try and clean them up because they're fine threaded and they're tiny. I did find them at Lowe's in their specialty screw drawers, and this is actually, I believe it's a number 10 screw, but it's actually grade 8, which I thought was really kind of funny, this thing being that small but also being hardened steel. And it comes with the black aluminum oxide covering on it, coating, so I replaced these. The head for this is really an obscure hex head. It's actually a 9/64th, which, okay. So take that, get these bolts in there, thread them down about halfway, and then you want to take your light bulb, have these 3 glass notches in them, and those 3 glass notches fit into the notches in the housing. So you want to make sure that you have the housing aligned properly. And how do you know that? Is that there's 3 cutouts or holes in the housing. The top 2 are for the adjusting screws. The bottom one is an actual hole, and this is where the spring will go into. So you want to align your bulb so that the bottom part is aligned with this hole. Just like that. Get the tabs in there. It's not actually like bottom, it's more like to the side. But you can see how you got the notch, and the hole, and the halogen, or whatever the label is, going across. Then take your retaining ring cover and align that with the bulb. So these tabs only fit on here one way, so you can't really screw that up. And then they fit down right over the top of the heads of the screws, and then rotates into that slot on the tab. Once you get it in there, get it locked into place, you got everything aligned properly, then take your Allen head and tighten these suckers down. Just get them down to where this tab is flush with the housing. It doesn't have to be pulled in there very tight. You may find that the tab on this retaining ring has to bend out a little bit. You might have to get some pliers out to get it aligned right, because these things are not a perfect system. But all you need to do is get it tight enough to where this ring isn't moving and it holds the light bulb into place. Now you want to take your alignment housing, I guess you would call this, I don't know the exact technical term for it, and I've already sandblasted this, got it all cleaned up, and then primed and painted. The reason I didn't powder coat this is because it's got two plastic brackets on here, and this is what the alignment bolts go into. So I can't powder coat something that has plastic on it, and because I obviously didn't want to mess this up. So I just did a good thorough paint job, put some primer on it, got some nice silver paint, and finished that off. When you put this onto the light bulb and its casing, you want to make sure that these two plastic alignment brackets are lined up with the two slots that are cut into the light bulb's housing. Just like that. But before we go and we put our bolts in, you're going to want to get the spring, the tension spring, put on alignment housing and the bulb housing. Because doing it the other way is really difficult, because if you're going to go through all the effort to paint and clean this thing up and powder coat this, the last thing you want to do is try and get this spring in between this metal and this metal without scraping everything up. So really the orientation of this spring doesn't matter. What I did is I sandblasted this again, got it cleaned up, and then I did a hot oil treatment on it so that it won't rust out anymore. You just slide that through this punched out slot in the alignment housing, and then you can do it a couple different ways. You can just do it by hand, where you get that spring inserted into that hole. And then another thing you might want to do before you do all that is just take some lubricating grease and put it on, or the three ridges on the housing of the bulb, just to provide a lubricated surface so that you don't rub off the paint or the powder coating on this when you're applying it. So back to where we were. Apply the spring, pull it over as far as you can, and get the plastic nut aligned with the slot on the lighthouse ring, and then take one of your alignment screws, and you'll notice that it has a groove in the actual bolt head just below the head, so that it slots in and will hold its place. So get that slot aligned into the slot on the housing, just like that, and then align the screw with the plastic retaining clip and just screw that into place. The one thing I will say about it is, when you actually do this, take a look inside of this plastic housing, because there's only threads in 4 sections of this. It's not completely threaded, so you easily could strip this out. So be careful with that. So I'm just going to start the bolt just enough to get some threads in there. I'm going to go about 3/4 of the way in, while making sure that I've got the bolt slotted into this slot in the retaining ring. And then I'm going to pull the other clip close to this, put the other bolt into place, and thread that in. Now that I've got both of the bolts in here, I'm going to thread this down to where this plastic clip probably comes up about 1/3 of the way up that bolt. The reason behind that is I don't want to overstress the spring right now, and I want to make sure that I give myself enough room when I mount this to be able to adjust the light bulb. Okay, so I've got the bolt just coming out the bottom of that plastic housing on both sides, and that's good for now. So there, we've just reassembled our light housing. These 2 bolts that I was just showing you how to install are how you actually align your headlights when you put this on the grill. Now that we've finished putting this together, I want to explain a little bit about what the rest of these things around this alignment housing are supposed to do. These 4 supports, brackets, posts, whatever you want to call them, are what screws directly into, and I think it's a 10, number 10 screw. These screw right into the actual metal of the grill. The other thing is that there's no difference between the left and the right headlight. They both have the alignment screws on the top and the right, and the mounting brackets are in the exact same place. This top bracket, the one that has a slot in it, and this bottom bracket, which is just a little bit longer than the actual mounting brackets, are how you mount your chrome headlight ring to the actual housing. The way that this works is this groove up here, this slot that's actually in the chrome ring, slots right into here, just like that. And there you can see how you have your adjustment screw at the top, and there's the adjustment screw down here at the right, and then there's this little metal clip, which I haven't powder coated yet, and I will, that goes on this arm at the bottom of the chrome ring. And that is where the screw goes right through and then pulls this housing right on to the light bulb. Well, that may not have been the most articulate version of a restoration video I've done yet, but at least you get the idea. So if you're sticking with the halogen regular headlights, old school, this is how you put them back together, and this is also how you restore it. Public service announcement. Subscribe. Like and subscribe. Or dislike. Any one of the two. Helps me out, helps the Jeeping community out, helps the CJ7 community out.